and welcome to the ConvaTec Patient Virtual Ostomy Summit. Every 3 years, ostomy organizations around the world celebrate World Ostomy Day. Tomorrow, October 2nd, will be the 10th time this special event is taking place. This year's motto has been designated by the European Ostomy Association, and the theme is Ostomates' rights are human rights, anytime, anywhere. So I was asked by ConvaTec to lead this session today to talk about advocacy with the goal to bring people together and to connect and engage in this global ostomy community and to discuss patient rights and a variety of topics. So I'm so glad you joined us today. We're joined with an awesome panel that I can't wait to introduce you with. Just a little bit about me. I'm an ostomy nurse. I'm a certified wound ostomy nurse in Denver, and I also started my own practice, which is called Ostomy RN. Our next speaker or panel representative is Joanna Burgess. She's a certified wound ostomy continence nurse. She's also a double ostomate. She serves as a co-chair for the UOAA Advocacy Committee, and she's also a ConvaTec Me Plus nurse. She's amazing. Next is Janine Gleba. She's our UOAA Advocacy Manager. She's nationally recognized as an award-winning advocate. She's a published author and a member of a few different societies representing awesome patient advocacy. Last, we have Ellen Mantell. She is an ostomate as well and a published author. She wrote a new book. You got to check it out. And she has a great blog with a ton of information. Ellen has a ton of great stories about patients, and she really supports and guides and empowers those patients. I'm sure you'll get some of her awesome stories today. So to kick off this summit, we really wanted to show you this video by ConvaTec, and we'll roll that and join back up with the panel afterwards. Thanks.
This is my life now.
This is my life now.
Come on, Maximilian!
And it is going to be amazing.
This is my life now.
This is my life now.
This is my life.
This is my life now.
This is my life now.
We can do, be, and live our life to the fullest.
She is just having a blast swimming right now with her ostomy.
I never thought I'd be my normal self. Turns out I'm a better version of myself.
This is my life now.
I feel so much more powerful in my day-to-day of what I can do. Spending a lot of quality time with my loved ones.
This is my life now with Healthy Bond.
I'm very, very, very grateful for it.
This is my life creating Healthy Bond.
This is my life with Healthy Bond.
This is my life with Healthy Bond. And my tea.
We believe that when you have a healthy bond with your stoma, you have a healthy bond to life.
What a great video to kick off this session. This is my life now is the theme of that video. I wanted to ask each of you how that video made you feel for a couple seconds if you want to share, and then we'll dive into the discussion. Joanna, what did you think of it?
My heart is open. You know, still waters run deep. Still waters run deep. It's the theme. I love this theme this year, Ostomates' rights, because I was a kid. You know, I started out from the very beginning. Sometimes when you prepare for something, it's you become illuminated to some thoughts that you may not have realized. And watching this video just gives me inspiration that this is my life. You know, this is my life. I'm healthy. I'm E+ nurse. So this is my life.
Janine, any thoughts on that little clip?
Yeah.
No, we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. I just wanted to go over that little clip and see if you had any comments on it.
Yeah, no, powerful video. If that doesn't give people hope, nothing does. It was beautiful.
Ellen, any thoughts?
My face is just frozen in a smile. I feel connected to everyone in that video. I think it's wonderful. Put such a positive face on the world of ostomy. Thank you, ConvaTec.
I agree. Let's rewind a tiny bit, get back to your stories, each of you, and maybe talk about how that theme of ostomates rights or human rights, how that theme really is important in today's world and where we are right now. Joanna, do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, that theme just screams advocacy to me. I think when that theme came around for Janine and Ellen and I, who've been so involved with advocacy, we were like, yay, Europe, thank you for so much for doing this. And to just add my, the many layers of my personal story, I could go on, but just briefly, advocacy is about finding your voice. And when I was a 3-year-old new to ostomy surgery, new to cancer, I felt like I didn't have a voice. And that's something that I've just come to realize. When you're a kid, you sort of hand your life over to your parents and your medical providers. And it took me a very long time to find my voice. And I didn't even know I needed to find my voice. But there was this little yearning, burning seed inside of me that wanted to help me understand what had happened to me. And I think that was the beginning of advocacy for me. And it led to me becoming a nurse. And it was there that, I didn't even know what kind of cancer I had. I just knew it was a very rare, dangerous cancer, as my family always said. So I got my medical records. I learned about it. I, got the vocabulary behind it. I learned what it meant for me at that point and for my parents. And I learned what it meant to be, for my future as well, and the impact that it had on my parents. I began to meet other families whose kids had ostomies, and I was able to finally see what the impact was on families with kids with ostomies. And then I think it was a natural direction for me to become an ostomy nurse, which further helped me to understand. I dove in and met people with all sorts of diagnoses and diseases and reasons for having an ostomy, and learned the mechanics of all of this, as well as the compassion that goes along with all of that. And then I was elected to the board of the United Ostomy Association, and met Janine, and Janine taught me how to be an advocate. And I really give her a lot of credit because she was so well known as an advocate. And it was more about finding my voice and listening to the stories and reading the stories that came into the UOAA about people's joys and sorrows and difficulties, and beginning to really put a voice behind that with the Patient Bill of Rights. And I know we're going to talk more about that. And then it led me to the step where I am today as a ConvaTec Me Plus support nurse, where I work with amazing colleagues, an amazing group of nurses. And they have taught, because of their support and because what I have learned from them, I'm even more of a better advocate on how to talk with people over the phone and nip the problem in the bud, as well as offering compassion. So I thank all of my colleagues today.
I second that. Janine, how does the World Ostomy Day theme play out for you?
Oh gosh, do you want a little bit about how advocacy came to my life, or should I just dive right into the theme?
Yes.
I could.
I want to.
Joanne, I could talk all day. But advocacy means so much to me that I changed my career and became an advocacy manager. But I wasn't always that way either.
Awesome.
I had to find my voice, and I had a completely different career in corporate America. And my youngest child was born deaf about 22 years ago. And our insurance company, as I'm sure a lot of people might be able to relate, would not cover her hearing aids. However, they would have covered her hearing aids if she lost her hearing as a result of an accident or an illness. But because she was born with her hearing loss, they would not pay for the hearing aids. And that did not sit well with me. So it started my journey on finding my voice. And I helped find a voice for many people with hearing loss in America. But again, that's what I am so passionate about, is helping people, get that empowerment and find their way and be able to speak up. And that's what we do at United Ostomy Associations of America. So we're extremely grateful that ConvaTec invited us to participate in this. And when the European Ostomy Association declared that theme, like Joanna said, we were so excited because, in my opinion, as the advocacy manager, it couldn't have happened at a better time. We get many phone calls from people who have received poor care. Some of the highest volume calls we get are people looking for a support group, looking to find a nurse who can help them manage their ostomy. And, that's why we've been pushing for years the Ostomy Incontinent Divergent Patient Bill of Rights. And so having this worldwide movement behind us is just unbelievable. It really makes our position so much stronger, and we're just thrilled. So I'll end it there because I could talk all day.
Yeah. Thank you. What a great summary. Ellen, what does this World Ostomy Day theme mean to you? And give us some background from where you're coming from. Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. First of all, I am so proud I feel as if I'm representing the 725,000 to 1 million ostomates in this country at this particular moment. I feel so blessed that Janine and I are so connected, and I've gotten to know Joanna and of course you, Kerry. My story started when I was 9 years old, and I had my first barium enema because I had very slow motility and had a lifetime of dealing with bowel issues, which were exacerbated by a bowel obstruction secondary to a hysterectomy in 1992, and perforated my bowel, and peritonitis and pancreatitis, and my gallbladder was affected, and I was in the hospital for a very long time, got myself together, and then 3 months later, the same thing happened again. Little did I know that at that point, I was going to be heavily involved in the world of leading up to an ostomy. I say leading up to because it took 23 years, and my ostomy was my 23rd abdominal surgery. And I am so grateful. In fact, at the very beginning of my recovery, I actually laid in bed fearful that someone would tell me that I could no longer have my ostomy, because it changed my life for the better. And it gave me health, and it gave me a smile on my face. And even my family noticed that my skin color changed, my everything changed. I became a much more ebullient person because I wasn't struggling all the time and in and out of the hospital facing the OR or the ER. Fast forward, I have become such an advocate. I am waiting to begin my 4th ostomy support group. And I am the Mighty Advocate of the Year from 2019, named by Janine. And I have so many ideas, goals, and plans for my life as an ostomate. And I guess being grateful is the most important thing I can say.
And Ellen, can you tell us a little about your pin or your brooch and why you wear it? I love that. Yeah.
I wear a flower anytime I am involved in ostomy because I, number one, received so many flowers over the years, and they always meant love to me. But I always wear a flower when I'm starting a new group or when I'm going into a group, because there may be someone new and I want them to know who I am. But most importantly, it represents my stoma. And my stoma's name is Lily. My mother's name was Lillian. She gave me my first life, and Lily gave me my second and better life. So the flower always feels like love and a connection to Lily and to all the other ostomates in the world.
Awesome. Thanks for that story.
That's a healthy bond there.
That is a healthy bond. Wow.
It is.
I love
Yes,
it.
it is.
Love those stories. Love how you guys shared a little bit of how you got into this and advocacy. Why do you think patient rights are so important right now? Why is this the time? I'd just love to hear and pick your brain a little bit more about it. Joanna, you want to go
Want me to go
first?
first? Okay.
Or
Sure.
yeah, Janine, go ahead. Let's either one.
Yeah,
We're
Janine's got
switching it
some
up.
ideas, and I'll follow up. Go ahead, Janine.
Okay. For me, there's a lot I could say about this too, but probably twofold for today's purposes. Absolutely, the pandemic really showed the different health disparities, especially in America, as well as poor care received in a lot of places. You know, it opened up a lot of eyes, the pandemic. And the ostomy community itself was also impacted around the world. I mean, some countries had supply chain issues and patients weren't able to get their supplies. I know in the United States, there were no hospital visitors, and someone about to undergo this surgery, having that person come in that's gone through that experience makes such a huge difference in those lives. Again, very few nurses were able to go into homes after surgery. Not only that, there were delays in diagnosis, there were delays in the life-saving surgery. So it really was, the community was impacted. And so, we kind of need to keep the momentum going and keep a focus on, improving quality of care. And then the other thing in the United States too, in 2020, the National Quality Forum launched a new campaign, The Care We Need. And the goal is where every patient in every community can expect consistently and predictably to receive high quality care by 2030. Well, our Ostomy Incontinent Diversion Patient Bill of Rights defines what high quality ostomy care is. So if we can, get involved in those conversations and again, keep that movement up, but that's what we want to happen too, hopefully even before 2030. But I think that the timing is so good and we really just need to keep it going, and patient rights, they should happen regardless of whether you shouldn't be discriminated against. It doesn't matter, the size of your patient population or the type of medical condition you have and what your age is, anything. So it's just like, that's like the motto says, anytime, anywhere. And that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Exactly.
I think somewhere in there we'll have a link to those patient bill of rights so that patients and advocates can find that. In the chat, we'll put that link in there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That'd be great.
Go, Joanna.
No.
Joanna, go ahead. And
Yeah. Thank you. And I reiterate everything Janine said, and even prior to the pandemic, with environmental changes, we've had fires, we've had natural disasters trying to get ostomy supplies to people. We're talking more and more the ostomy talk. And on a positive note as well, and I've been talking, to Janine about this, what I've been noticing is that the millennial population is really good about talking the ostomy talk, and we want to talk that talk. They put this in such a positive light, many of them. And, what you see on social media, them in their bathing suits and showing the little tops of their pouches showing. And that, it just pushes so much inside of me because I was taught you had to keep that hidden. This is not what you talk about, and this is not what you show. And it's not that I'm comfortable at this point showing my ostomy as an older woman either, but I love when I look back of what I had to face as a teenager. I know if I had had that group of people like, okay, it's okay, we can talk about this. I just think it would have been wonderful. And I think even in television, we're seeing more positive discussions on some medical shows. I've noticed there's more a positivity around ostomy, and that they're even bringing that up. I think that says something. So yeah, it's time to talk the ostomy talk. Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Ellen, how about you? Do you want to chime in on how the patient rights are so important right now?
I think one of the most important things about the patient's rights is that we have more than we have ever had. We have so much more that we can take advantage of. So it's even more important and timely. We have better care, better better medical care. We have better supplies. We have better outreach. We do have the opportunity to appear, as Joanna said, in the media. So I look at it as it's an opportunity whose time has come, and Zoom, the ability for Zoom to create more of an impact in social media, but additionally the support groups. We have people in our support group, which is in New Jersey, from Washington State, Florida, upstate New York, all around the country at different times, and even from Canada. So I think this is dovetailing with the very specific things that Joanna and Janine were discussing.
I think it's sort of the perfect storm. The social media meets the patient bill of rights, and it's just disseminating everywhere. It's
Agreed.
Now we need the key decision makers like CMS and the CDC, and hopefully they're out there listening too, and hop on board with us.
I hope so too. Now we get into a little bit more specific. I wanted to ask each of you what two of your most important things to share or discover about patient rights are, so that we can review the patient bill of rights and how they can be so important, how they can impact a patient right now. Joanna, you want to go first?
Sure. The patient bill of rights is divided into, it's a tool basically of what a patient should expect preoperatively, during the operative phase, postoperatively, and for the rest of their life, for as long as they have the ostomy. And for me, I think one of the key things is really, as I've gone back to my theme, is finding your voice. And I think the best example is to give you an example of how I helped myself use the patient bill of rights and pass that on to a patient of mine. When I was working in the hospital, I realized that we didn't have an outpatient clinic. And one of the rights of patients is that they should be able to be followed up long after the acute care experience. And I did not have anywhere to send them. And so I went to my supervisor and I said, we need a place to send people. We need a place to send the ostomy patients. And it wasn't an easy journey, and sometimes advocacy takes a long time, but I found the right people to find my voice to make that happen. And that was getting my supervisor, going to the CEO of the hospital, having meetings until we found the right pathway. And it took several years, but I kept showing the patient bill of rights, this is what we need, and let's make this happen. And everybody was patient and we made it happen. And so I will never forget just being thrilled at sitting at my outpatient ostomy clinic one day. And I had a patient that came in. She had had to travel for 2 hours. And she said, she was mad. She was just angry. And she said, Joanna, why do I have to travel for 2 hours when I don't necessarily feel all that well to get help? And I said, well, there is something called the Ostomy Incontinent Diversion Patient Bill of Rights. I'm going to print this off for you. I'm going to hand it to you. And you can make this happen. I want you to take this tool to the WOCN that you worked with, and I want you to create this together. And then we got into a conversation and we talked more and more about how to make that happen. And I've also encouraged, ostomy nurses to do that as well. I sort of see myself as a bridge. I've been on the patient side and I've been on the wound ostomy side, and I travel back and forth across that bridge pretty much every day trying to make things happen. And so she did. She took it to her WC nurse. I talked to other WC nurses, and lo and behold, she and the nurse together were able to get that outpatient ostomy clinic now. So that's how you take the tool, and that's how you make it happen. So it's a perfect example.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Janine, how about you? What are two things that are most important to you?
Yeah, I love that story. I'm going to focus on something. It's not something that you can actually see on the document itself, but I really want to stress that health rights are human rights, And these patient bill of rights, they're not legislated. It's not like a law, and then if it doesn't happen, someone broke the law. But it doesn't make them any less impactful or any less, powerful. As Joanna said, they're a tool, and I think the analogy that I like to use is, for the United States anyway, is that the American Hospital Association many, many years ago started the Patient Bill of Rights for hospitals and acute care. They were never federally legislated. But because more patients started asking for these things, in some cases demanding these things, the more surgeons and clinicians and nurses started doing those things, they eventually became standards of care. And you walk into any hospital in America and you will see the Patient Bill of Rights hung up on practically every room in the hospital. That's what we're trying to achieve here. We want these to become absolutely standards of care in any healthcare facility across America for people that, have undergone ostomy surgery or are living with an ostomy. And so don't dismiss them, that it's not a law. As Joanna just gave great success stories there, and we know other success stories too. They can make an impact, and that's what we're trying to do. I'll let Ellen answer.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. You go next. How do you think, or what do you think the two most important things are? Go ahead.
Well, I would love to add that about 3 years ago, as president of the ostomy support group in our medical center, the wound and ostomy nurses asked me to work to create an ostomy center as well, an outpatient ostomy center. And it was, as Joanna said, it was a lot of work, a lot of letter writing and meetings and things that needed to take place. The wonderful thing is that once we did open our ostomy outpatient center at the medical center, patients have the opportunity to be seen the first week post-surgery, 2 weeks post-surgery, 6 weeks, 3 months, and 6 months, and annually, and of course in between if they need to. The beauty is that the doctors are standing behind this and the insurance companies are standing behind this. So it's a win for everyone, because the important thing to know is that where dollars are concerned, it's important to know that the insurance companies are standing behind patients being seen by WOCNs. Additionally, I feel very strongly that every ostomate know what kind of ostomy they have, what part of their body is impacted, and if they need to be in the emergency room, aside from bringing a bag, which is always a very important thing, filled with supplies, so that if they are in need of being hospitalized, they have what they need. Please know that all a patient should have to say is, I have an ostomy, I need help for the following problem, and any medical center should be able to provide the services necessary.
Yeah, and I'm going to chime into what Ellen just said, because she's another great example that she did. They actually started out small, right, Ellen? They were only opened, I think, 2 days a week, but the demand was so great. I think they're open 5 days a week now. So
That's awesome.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
And again, they were very concerned about the finances, but from what I understand, that has not been an issue. Now, I'm not involved in obviously that, but billing, I am involved, right, the billing, but I am involved in that my card is there as an ostomy guide. My book is there so patients can see what life is like as an ostomate. But most importantly, they are marked. They leave the center with not only the marking for their surgery, but a connection, the connection to the wound and ostomy nurse, the connection to the support group, the connection to me, whether I visit them in the hospital, whether COVID allows it. All of this is in place, so patients are really, they feel prepared. Something, they feel prepared.
Mm-hmm. Joanna, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could add to that, on the UOAA website, we do have basically tools for patients and nurses on how to use the patient bill of rights. We've got guidelines, and so you can look at those guidelines and see how to make these patient bill of rights happen. And on the WOCN side, I really want to encourage ostomy nurses. What I hear a lot is, I can't start an outpatient clinic because I'm not an advanced practice nurse, or I'm not a nurse practitioner. There are ways to make it, there are ways to make it happen. If you've got guts and determination and you get the right backing behind you. In my particular situation, the surgeons basically adopted me, and I ended up using a room at their facility. So there are ways to make it happen. So if you have this yearning desire to make it happen, you can make it happen. Absolutely. It's so important for that long-term care of these patients. I know, going through all the different developmental stages in life, my needs were different as a 3-year-old than an adolescent to a young adult, both physically and emotionally. And these outpatient clinics are vital, and they're important.
I think that's what has inspired me to help patients and start my own business, so that I can advocate for patients too, because I kept continuing to see patients go home, and I want to support them as best I can. And going back to Ellen, and what Ellen said real quick, knowing what type of ostomy you have, putting I on the back of my business card have places that patients can put what type of ostomy they have, what type of supplies they use, so that if they do go into the hospital, that they know, the nursing staff knows what to order for them. Just doing little things like that for patients to know their rights, and that they can receive the right supplies or comparable supplies when they are in the hospital. Janine, what did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of both of what you and Joanna just said, that UOAA, on our website, we have lots of tools, again, on how to utilize the patient bill of rights. And in honor of World Ostomy Day, we partnered with Better Health, and we've created an animated series. And if you watch this cartoon, it'll help you gain a better understanding of what the patient bill of rights is all about. But again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, we've created so many tools and resources. It's out there for you already. In particular, like knowing your ostomy, that's one of the things I think that's a challenge for us with the patient bill of rights, is that so many people don't know how to speak up. So we have a tool on there to help people. And one of the reasons some people are afraid to speak up is that, if you don't really understand your medical condition, in the thing that you have, you're kind of fearful. And so you don't have that confidence to speak up. So we have checklists on there, know your ostomy, so that when you go to the hospital or are seeing a doctor you've never seen before, it can help you explain it. Or nowadays with telehealth, if you are having issues and you see the checklist, if you check off your stoma color is purple, well, and you say that to the nurse, it's going to be a red flag. So take advantage of some of these tools that we have.
Absolutely. That's a wealth of knowledge on ostomy.org. Definitely, we'll put the link to that site in there. Yeah, Ellen.
I just wanted to also mention that I think our generation, and each generation coming after us, no longer feels that the doctor is the one who's going to take care of them through life. We know that once our ostomy the surgery is performed, the doctor has done the very best job the surgeon can do with what is presented. It becomes our responsibility, the patient's responsibility, to source out what is necessary. As Janine said, some people are very uncomfortable talking about their situation, and even when they're in front of a physician. So it's important, whether it becomes the support group leader or someone in the support group who can be with them, or the family member, of course, because we know that the family is a great source of support for the patient. But most of all, I wanted to be out there that to expect our surgeons to know what kind of pouching system we use is just, it's fraught with disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all work on, raising the awareness about that. Great point.
Yep.
Janine, you kind of touched on it. Do you want to talk a little bit about where to find some of these documents, since you're pro at the website, and about the Ostomy Association, or I mean, sorry, the United Ostomy Association of America
Sure.
website.
Well,
Sorry.
Yep. We definitely go to ostomy.org, and we have a dedicated webpage specifically for the patient bill of rights. But you can see there's links to all of these checklists, our toolkits, ways to help people, find their voice. We have a ton of information on there, and even just specifically for the patient bill of rights, like we're really hoping, colorectal surgeons and nurses and hospitals, they'll start posting our patient bill of rights, within their facilities, so to make the patients aware of what to expect and the care that they're going to receive, hopefully.
Yes.
So the other thing too is with our outreach, we've been working real hard and very lucky. We have a lot of great partners. The WOCN Society includes them in their clinical guidelines for people with a fecal urinary diversion. We have other partners that include it in their ostomy supply starter kits. Partners put it on their websites. That's how we start raising awareness and getting them out there. And then we have some suppliers that include them in their ostomy educational materials. So it's really great. We're growing. We just need to keep the momentum going.
Right. And
yeah,
I can
Joanna.
add to that too, Carrie. The Me Plus community is the Me Plus community is an amazing community, and ConvaTec has really supported these tools and all of these things. As a Me Plus nurse and my colleagues, we talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people a month, and we can tell, and we're giving out these resources. We can tell the patients and their advocates, the family members that call in, whose rights have been met. These are the people that may be looking for a little bit of support or a new sample to try, but they know the vocabulary. They know their ostomy type. They know what they're talking about, versus the people whose rights have not been met. They're in despair. They're fearful. They're struggling. They're in pain. And so we give these resources and these tools. And I think, the momentum is growing, and it's going to make a huge difference.
Ellen, you had something to add. Go for it.
Yes, I just want to kind of tie a bow on what has been said. Janine, I met Janine when I was, my ostomy support group was only, I guess, 2 or 3 years old. And Janine, she came to one of the meetings so that she could better understand a support group in New Jersey. And from that point, and I so value all the things that are happening and the roads that are being taken, because I'm so fortunate to have come into my ostomy at a time when there is so much advocacy. And as Joanna has said, that not only are the manufacturers and the suppliers providing for ostomates, but I just feel with Janine, every single opportunity has been met. And she and I have gone to the Digestive Disease National Coalition together. There's such a presence that we are obtaining. And it's because of the work of people like Janine and Joanna that we can be positioned as we are. So I'm so grateful that it's at my time it's happening.
Right. But by the same token, Ellen has, incredible stories. They're not good stories of why we do what we do. And
you have helped with many of them.
Yeah, I mean, someone, we keep saying this, one of the things, one of the greatest things that we advocate for is access to ostomy supplies. And, you'd be surprised with how many people leave the hospital not knowing how to order their supplies. And that's what this is all about. Like, we want ostomy patients to have the same focus, attention, and treatment as a diabetic. Someone with diabetes would not leave the hospital not knowing how to order their insulin. And that's what we're trying to do. Alan, tell them about the gentleman. This is this year. Didn't happen 20 years ago. This gentleman came home. Tell them about the one that visited your support group 3 weeks after.
Right, from a major New York hospital, not a remote situation. A major New York hospital had a urostomy, and he was wearing the same pouch that he left the hospital wearing and had no idea that it was to be removed and changed. Wow. How it was on there, I'm sure, was duct tape. But the other more upsetting situation in which Janine really got involved and supported me was that I was called to the hospital to try to support a patient who was being treated at the hospital and then gone to a rehab center where they used Scotch tape to tape a plastic bag to her stoma because they did not have proper supplies. They obviously were being supported by Medicare, so they could have gotten it makes me so upset. She subsequently died of sepsis. And I reached out to Janine in tears, and Janine met with the family. And these stories exist. They tear your heart out. But on a better note, we learn from each one of them. And I have to hope our voices get stronger.
That's right. And Carrie, just so that this isn't forgotten, and that's an incredible story, Ellen, just amazing. That the Patient Bill of Rights, we spent a year backing this up with research. So every single component, and this is a huge important piece to this, is backed. We had a whole task force, a whole team. Every bit of it is backed by research, and you can find the white paper. We have a link on our website. So we're hoping to get this published in the journal, in the JWOCN. So just so that medical professionals know that, and patients and their advocates as well.
Right. Because if you look at that document,
it doesn't,
Ellen. Yeah, exactly. Right. You look at the document and you're like, well, just because UOAA is saying, I need this, what does that mean? But each of those things, we have, they're evidence-based, you know what I mean? They do, preoperative stomach marking does improve patient outcomes.
Absolutely.
As Joanna said, the white paper's not up on the website yet. We're in the process of getting it polished up.
Yep. It's a new thing that came along, and we're just really proud of it because it's going to make a huge difference in the acceptance of this. Because we don't want to hear those stories, Ellen. We don't want those stories.
Absolutely.
It boosts up why we need those. Last quick question. We have a couple minutes before we go to the Q&A, but how do you guys feel the community can really continue to raise awareness about this Patient Bill of Rights so that it's standard of care without question? Do you have any ideas about how we can continue to raise this awareness? Who wants to go first?
You go, Janine. You've got a whole list.
Go for it. I mean, anyway, you can wear the stoma pins. And,
I didn't even see that. That's awesome.
Start a conversation. That's always good. Again, the overall goal of World Ostomy Day and our National Ostomy Awareness Day is to raise positive awareness and save more lives. I mean, this is a life-saving surgery. It's there's such still stigma out there. So, I mean. Again, that's just one little thing, not necessarily related to the rights, but it's so huge. Again, starting that conversation, if you don't see these things, happening, ask your healthcare facility, why or what can be done to make that change. As Joanna said, if you have that little kind of inclination to, ask a question or make your voice heard, don't let it stay in there, open your mouth and help us, because it does make a difference. And that's another thing too, why people don't speak up, because a lot of people feel like, am I the only one that this is happening to, or they feel alone. That's why that support is so important too. When you find your people, then you can make that stronger voice. And so maybe you go in with your support group together to a hospital administrator. This way you're not just that one voice. So that's a couple of ideas there.
Yeah. Ellen, I think you had your hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Joanna. That's okay. Go ahead. I'll wait.
What I was going to say is just I love, it's kind of a motto with the UOAA, is finding your people. It's about finding your people. I didn't have a voice until I realized there were other people in the world with an ostomy, because as a little girl I just did not know that. I thought, I must be the only one that this has happened to. And then as I began to realize that I was not, that's when my voice got stronger. But finding your people is so important. And being here, going from not having a voice to being in front of the world, I just cannot tell you what that means to me. So here we are. This is my life.
Yeah, and I'm going to cut in real quick before Ellen. We're about to release more research results, and one of the top 3 issues that patients struggled the most with after discharge was a lack of emotional support and depression. So again, finding that people is so important. And some of the statistics are 78% of the respondents were not provided the opportunity to discuss that emotional impact of this life-saving surgery. So it's desperately needed out there, to have, and that's one of the rights. I'll give you another one. 70% were not provided the opportunity to, speak with someone who, like a visitor, like Ellen is. Were not given that opportunity, or even told that there are people that they could. And we have a lot of certified visitors that we work with a lot of hospitals on. So, that's why these are rights, and why it's so important that people get this help and support and care. So, and that's what we want. This is the care ostomates need.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Why don't you speak real quick, and then we'll jump to Q&A. Go ahead.
One final thing. Remember that no one is immune. Those of us who have ostomies are very well aware of the emotional, physical, and all of the ramifications. But as somebody pointed out to me when she said, boy, I would have thought you're immune to something like that. No one is immune. And any of us can be faced with something that changes our lives. Being resilient and knowing how to advocate for ourselves is the most important thing we can do for ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you. I have my question and answers coming in from some of the people viewing today. One of the first ones is there a support group in South Africa? I believe there is. Janine, do you know that answer?
I do not know internationally, but there are, I would think the International Ostomy Association, they have a website. I would check on there and contact them, because there are different member associations across, for each continent and across the world.
Yeah. Thank you, South Africa, for writing in and joining us today. Another question came in from Michael. What progress has been made with regards to dealing with airport screening? What a great question. Anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I can do that too. I guess we all can. But real quick too, I want to go back to the other question. I thought of something else. For the person in South Africa, there's a lot of stuff online. Like even we have an online discussion board. There are virtual support groups. So you might be able to find one of those. And then there are many Facebook groups, you can do that all online. As far as airport screening, at least in the United States, the TSA, we've made tremendous strides. UOAA actually has a liaison that works with the TSA. And if you go on out, once again, I don't want to keep plugging the website, but we have a toolkit for traveling.
Okay.
And we actually have a communication card for people that are, before you go to the airport, take the communication card, with you. And there's all tips on how to travel with an ostomy. It has the guidelines from the TSA, and you should not have issues when you're being screened at the TSA. And at least in the United States, if you do run into a problem or feel like you're discriminated against, contact us, because our liaison can be in touch with the TSA, and they can go back and look at the airport security footage at the exact moment you were going through that screening or that gate, and see what went wrong so that they can educate their employees. But they're constantly doing training with their employees. So really, very rarely now, that we've made tremendous strides with that. Rarely now do we have any issues.
Exactly.
I just
Ellen,
wanted
you wanted to chime in? Yeah.
I just wanted to add that very same thing, that we do have our liaison who's been wonderful. And the other thing is, if someone misses a screening, if one of the people who work at the airport misses screening, I have found, and I travel a lot as well, that if you are patient and just explain and just point to the screen, which shows where the pouch is, they are very, very respectful. As long as you're respectful, obviously, then they will be fine.
Correct.
I have a question coming from an anonymous person, but they've had their ostomy for 2 years, a colostomy. This question might come in for Joanna and Ellen, and they're still angry after 2 years. What advice do you have after 2 years of having an ostomy, and what can help this person?
I can start, Ellen, if you'd like. So,
Sure.
Anger is a human feeling. You wouldn't be human if you weren't angry. And then if you're still angry after 2 years, I went through several phases of being angry. And I would have to say my biggest one was probably later adolescence, young adult, as I was watching all my friends get married. And, I still didn't know how to explain that I had an ostomy to a partner. How do you do this? That's a human, very difficult thing. And there's a lot of stigma with counseling, but counseling is really important. Whether it's a clinical social worker, a psychologist, whoever you get counseling from, I relate that to a counselor provides you with tools, whether that's verbal tools, emotional tools, whatever you need to move forward in life. And I want to recognize this person that to recognize your feelings is the first part, and that she recognizes that she's angry. And then if there's a desire to move beyond the angry, then counseling can make a huge difference. And I know it did for me to move through some of those harder times in life. Absolutely. Ellen?
I would just also add, Joanna, that I would want to know what it is specifically that is making her angry. And because sometimes the emotion is so great and feels so powerful. And I recently spoke with a woman who is very angry as well. And, but it turned out to be fear. And once we talked about what specifically she was fearing, it made it a lot less powerful. So I agree with you, Joanna. Having therapy, having a support is key. And sometimes just being able to reflect, whether it's journaling or anything that will help you to focus on what it is that's making you angry.
Right. And absolutely, Ellen. And anger is a stage of grief, and you don't just go through the stages of grief and check it off and move forward. Sometimes you fluctuate, you go back and forth, between, depending on what's going on in your life and what's happening. But fear is a huge one. Absolutely, Ellen. So so be kind to yourself and do what you need to do that makes sense to you to move through anger. And recognize it and be angry if you need to. But if you want to move beyond that, then find ways to do that, for sure.
Great thoughts. Good thoughts. Thank you, guys. Next question. I'm not ready for a support group. How can I start with something virtually? I think we touched on it earlier. Janine mentioned some Facebook groups. There's definitely a lot on social media. Like we talked about earlier, the younger generation has really brought this to the forefront. There's a lot of support socially, virtually, and I would just encourage I'm going to plug ostomy.org. They do have lists of virtual support groups if that's kind of where you want to dip your toe in and see, talk with other ostomates. I would highly recommend looking. Yeah, Janine, go ahead.
And then also, there are private Facebook groups, but UOAA has several social media platforms. I mean, we just
Good.
started.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool TikTok platform. So you can see some
Yes.
videos that people share. But we're on
Awesome.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on all of it, and so maybe that's how you dip your toes in it, to just read other posts and see what people are talking about and their concerns and the responses that they get from their concerns. And that's just an easy way to do it. Comfort of your home.
Yes. Yeah. It's a good way to start. And I think the pandemic has helped with that too, is people can feel supported that way over Zoom as well. We've got about 5 more minutes, so we'll do a couple more questions. This comes from Robert. He said, I've heard that there are long-term care or assisted living facilities that do not accept ostomates as residents. Is this prevalent?
I can answer that.
Janine can speak to that. She's worked a lot with that issue.
That's actually one of our. It's a good question, Robert. It's actually another one of our top. I think everything we work on is a top priority. But we've been working with the WOCN Society on that issue. I wouldn't say it's prevalent, but for sure. And unfortunately, in the United States, every state they're regulated differently. And basically, they have the out that they can, if they can't provide the proper care or services, they don't have to accept people. And so there are a lot of misconceptions out there. A lot of facilities think that caring for an ostomy is skill care, and it's not skill care. And we've worked with the society, and we came up with a joint facts statement, and we're about to be putting it available on the website for the public to start using. But if someone contacts us, we've been sharing that resource. And again, a lot of advocacy is educating. So, we recently this year, we sent these facts and a joint cover letter from both our organizations to every state association whose members are all of the assisted living facilities. And actually next year, we're doing a webinar with Pennsylvania, because they were very interested. Again, there are a lot of misconceptions out there, and emptying and changing a pouch is not skill care. There are times in caring for an ostomy where you do need that skill care, but that kind of basically it's kind of like an assisted daily living activity. And that's what we're trying to educate them all on, so that, they will start admitting and retaining people with an ostomy. But again, there are many facilities that do accept and retain people with an ostomy.
Correct.
Alan, did you have something to add to that?
I just wanted to, Janine knows that my mother-in-law is at a facility, and I went with another member of the UOAA, and we had a conversation and asked point blank, would my mother-in-law, for example, be asked to leave the assisted living facility if she became an ostomate? And I think, as Janine said, there are a lot of rules that are being played out, and because things are different in every state. But basically, we got the impression that as long as if she was no longer able to care for her pouching system, and we provided someone to come in and do so, she would be able to remain there. So it's just another thing to be thinking about.
Another example, it's another example of advocating and educating maybe the nurses or the people in that facility, and just you can use that patient bill of rights to show this isn't above and beyond, and we should get this care. Great point.
Yeah, right. Great point. A lot of facilities, their care workers, they think it's a wound. It's not a wound. They think it's an invasive procedure. It's not an invasive procedure. So hopefully that's another thing we're working on, but it's not happening everywhere. So
that's one of my missions, is to help educate bedside or home health nurses so that they give really high quality care to patients in their homes. So just continuing on that advocacy. Last question. Let's see. Let's make it a good one. From Edward, quickly. I have sores that break and bleed under my pouch. How do I handle this? Is having leaks a common issue? Let's answer, is having leaks a common issue? We have 1 minute, so let's give a lightning round. Who wants to answer that one? maybe Joanna.
I'll do, yeah, Joanna, you answer
Sure.
that one.
Yeah. Well, that's telling me, and this is what I do every day. This is what we Me Plus nurses do. These are the
Absolutely.
calls we get. That is not the right pouching system. If anything, we
Yes.
want your skin to be clean and healthy. That is not the right pouching system for you. So there's many options. It's about pushing yourself from behind if you're afraid, finding the resources, returning to your WOC nurse, calling a manufacturer such as ConvaTec with a Me Plus program, and getting set up with some samples to try some new things. Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. And
That's
if you
awesome.
live, if you live in an area where you don't have access to that WOC nurse, again, UOAA, we have a list of resources. There are telehealth, like Carrie's one
I
of those
gotta
nurses,
cut you off. I gotta cut you off. We're ending this summit. Thank you so much, all the speakers, and I appreciate you all, the work that you're doing. Thank you for attending this virtual summit. Let's keep the raising awareness about ostomy rights. There are human rights anytime, anywhere. We really appreciate all of you being here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.